Please welcome all of you. And second, Sister Judy as well from Halifax. So before I begin and speak the poem about both of them, let me first introduce a few. I mean, they don't need introduction actually. They are really, their presence itself is an introduction of theirs. But a few things, having personally interacted with Sister Kala, I must say, now that I know her, I mean, this is the first time I've met her. So she serves as the director of the Peace Village Retreat Center, which is in US. And I don't know, for some reason, this file has gone away. Well, just a moment. Yeah. So she's actually a pediatrician by profession and has had practiced for quite a while in the US, in New York. And as far as the Brahma Kumaris go, she has too many accolades to her CV. But I must say that she is, along with the director, she's also the founding director of the Point of Life Foundation, which is a non-profit entity in the US working for quality healthcare worldwide. And again, she has had a lot of experience with conducting many projects, the two main ones being Million Minutes of Peace Appeal and the Global Cooperation for a Better World. All of us know many things about her, and she's basically now serving as the director full-time there. And lastly, I must say that she's fully devoted to creating a lot of innovative programs and building a very conducive atmosphere at the Peace Village, which is actually a learning and retreat center. So with this, now I move on to our second speaker, who is Sister Judy Johnson, joining from the Halifax region of Canada. And she has been into knowledge since almost 35 years, holding a bachelor in social work and a master's in adult education. She is a facilitator and a coaching consultant. And very much close to our heart is that experiential learning, which she does very well. And I'm sure she has been with us for almost 3-4 times now. And she's also an ardent author of 5 books. To name a few, The 7 Secrets of the Universe, and Beautiful Thoughts, and one more, Return to Source and the God Experience. And she coordinates all the activities of the BKs in the Halifax and the Atlantic region of Canada. So coming to the poem for both of them on the today's value, zeal and enthusiasm, that both these sisters have wings of enthusiasm and zeal. That's because they are in the profession to heal. They have this compassion for others to feel, which makes them praiseworthy to a very great deal. They say Maya is waiting there to steal, making you spin and toss like a rolling reel. So let positive thoughts now only be my main meal, because they have the immense potential to heal. And finally, let my mind now, with the Supreme, have a strong seal, and let me get rid of the body consciousness like removing a skin peel. So with this, thank you so much for both of you for your precious time to be with us. And we are looking forward to more conversations with you. This is just the beginning, I must say. And now I would request Sister Claudia to please welcome both of them. Over to you. Thank you.
Om Shanti, good morning from here. Good evening for some of you, and good afternoon also. So it's a pleasure to have both of you with us today. And we need to learn more, to have more zeal and enthusiasm. And I think both of you is really going to teach us how to improve and be always on that flying stage, because with zeal and enthusiasm, we can just fly over all the challenge that comes in our life, which is sometimes many, but we still, with zeal and enthusiasm, we can fly over and then remove all the obstacles in our life. So I like to bring some rules for both of you, so you just feel like you are getting some rules and that you are just arriving in Vancouver. Okay. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
So thank you, Sister Claudia, for these beautiful flowers. And yeah, before I forget, we have a few technical glitches, which usually is the scenario here in this age. all the translations are available in their respective rooms except Tamil. And please, if I could request the Tamil people who want to listen into Tamil, please go to the English room. A bit odd, but you have to do that because there's some technical problem. We are not able to sort that out so far.
Also, I think I'll just take a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Portuguese, you
No
have
worries.
to unmute yourself. We can't hear. People can't hear.
Sorry, I am unmuted already. Okay, you're speaking about Ram Kumar Bhai, is it?
No, it's all solved. Portuguese was also muted. All good. I just took that second to quickly sort it out. So thank you.
So, but despite all these glitches, we still have a lot of zeal and enthusiasm, and we look forward to listening to both of you. The stage is all yours. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Manoj Bhai. Thank you, Claudia Ben. Thank you, the whole team that has been holding this series for 65 weeks. It's amazing. And we come to the end on Z or Z, in America for zeal and enthusiasm. And Caliban, welcome to you. We have not, Manoj Bhai asked, have you spoken before to prepare? And I said, no, we're just going to meet and talk.
I was waiting to either receive a call or to make a call, but it just didn't happen. So we've just been out of the woods right now. And
Fresh.
So, fresh, I should say, yes. And I must say, it was nice to say 65 weeks it is. So there's no better proof of zeal and enthusiasm than a program that lasts that long, right? Episode of 65. That says a lot for the zeal and enthusiasm of this team that's been doing these programs. And thank you very much for having me again. This is my second time over here, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with Judy.
Caliban, I had a question. I had been thinking to myself in preparation for this topic. It's one that's near to my heart because I've always been enthusiastic, but that enthusiasm has transformed since spiritual study. But I can share a little bit about that as well. But in my research, I had to think about what's the difference between zeal and enthusiasm, because they always come together. And I often thought, is there a difference in the Hindi translation? Because in English, the two words actually have different meanings and they have a different feeling behind them. So could you share from the Hindi translation of those two words, is there, what's the difference? Is there a difference between them, or are they like twins?
Yes, they are two different children of the same parent, maybe. So, zeal is zeal, enthusiasm is enthusiasm, and so also in Hindi, the words are different. Umang, we usually translate zeal as umang, and enthusiasm as utsaha. Utsaha is and I was thinking about the same question too, actually, because it's very rare that you take up one of them and not mention the other one. And so they seem to be always going hand in hand. But thinking about it, what I was really feeling, and I'm not saying this is the final answer, but the umang or the zeal is something that I think is something that is internal, something that is genuine, that's something coming from inside. And when I say utsaha, I actually picture something visual. In other words, it's being projected in some way, either in terms of their jumping with joy, or doing things that are impossible, or things like that. So I think utsaha or enthusiasm, I would say, is the projection of that internal zeal, perhaps. Yeah.
Oh, that's
but they
lovely.
do go hand in hand.
Yeah, I mean, in the BK study, we always hear them together, zeal and enthusiasm. So, and they're considered to be two wings, and you need them both to get leverage, to get up. You know, you can't flap just on one wing. So, you know, they do come together. But, you know, in English, the word zeal is not a nice, like, it's not a nice word because it's associated with zealots. And to be a zealot is to be someone who is so obsessed with something, so possessed with something that they want to convert everyone they meet. That's what a zealot is. And so when I first heard the word zeal, I thought, I have to redefine this word for me because I don't want to be a zealot, you know, which is a historical group by that name. And I had to think a lot about, I feel like you're saying, I looked for other Z words, Z words. I looked for zip and zest, you know, and it, like you're saying, it's that inner kind of sparkle, that inner drive or light, you know, and especially what lights me up, what makes me feel like I want to zip and zest and jump and do things, you know. But then enthusiasm, I remember hearing that it came from the Greek, in English anyways, from the Greek word entheos, to have God within. And then I thought, well, maybe that's why we get these together. And maybe that's why they're two wings, is that the zeal is my part. It's the zip, the zest. But the enthusiasm is when that zip and zeal and zest is filled with God's energy. Then, well, there's nothing I can't do. These two wings that can lift me above any situation. I don't know. That was just came to me yesterday when I was trying to understand what's the
I'll take
difference.
it.
And you'll take it.
I'll take it. But also in terms of the, you know, the analogy and the origin of the word utsav is also related in Hindi to utsav. Utsav is actually like a way of celebrating. A festival is a utsav, for example. You know, you make everything into a celebration or a festival. So in terms of what I was saying before, you know, you always end up doing things in a festival, you know, to celebrate outwardly. You know, you don't just sit with it, but you're always with people, doing something with food, doing something with, you know, decoration, this, that, and the other. So it's an external projection also, you know, in terms of radiating that inner energy of zeal into matter, into nature as well. Also.
Oh, that's
Sorry to
beautiful.
interrupt. Sister Kala, if you can, I mean, the volume is fine, it's clear, but it's a bit low. Can you increase the bit maybe from your side? Because people are saying it's a bit low volume, they can't understand.
How about now?
Yeah, do you want to go? Is it full now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than before. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe bring the computer a bit close. Yeah, but it's okay. We can hear, but I don't think it's significantly changed. But maybe now it's good. Let's try. Thank you.
I like that, Caliban, the difference between the inner and then expressed externally into the world. It's a nice way to see them. And also then we need both, don't we? You can't just have this without some external expression of it.
Yeah, it's being with people. It's kind of, you know, making things beautiful. It's kind of making loud sound, perhaps that can, you know, make people happy. You know, it's all of that that's included in celebration or, you know, festivals, isn't it? So, I mean, that's just the traditional, you know, connection, utsav and utsav. And many times we hear that connection also in the BK study. It comes together.
I wonder if having God's energy inside of our celebration, it takes a different form or it takes a different feeling. it creates a different feeling. Because I'm thinking of my enthusiasm before I came to the BKs was probably a little bit like a fire hose going all directions. But now, you know, it's much more focused, and it's I think a little more quiet, less extroverted. So still celebratory, but not quite such an extroverted way. Has your enthusiasm changed? Has anything in relation to this? Because I've always seen you as very enthusiastic, but quietly.
Yeah. Going back to my life before, becoming so-called spiritual, I wouldn't call myself an enthusiastic person. or perhaps nobody would have called me that. But I was indeed a quiet person, and maybe reflective, yes, but I wouldn't have connected with this word zeal or enthusiasm before. But I think when exposed to the spiritual way of living, and of course exposed and introduced to the connection and relationship that we have with God, things dramatically changed, in the sense that this word that I think you mentioned before, this zest for life, for example, I can remember that zest for life coming alive first, after becoming spiritual. And I think that's also the origin of zeal, isn't it? That's the inner source of that zeal, that the original pure energy of the soul is ignited. And therefore, you understand life in its purest form, and therefore there's a lot of positive energy to make that happen, even if it's not the reality of the moment, but you know that it is possible, and you can make it happen, especially, of course, with God's energy. So I remember I could relate to the word zest even more than the word zeal, actually. And then, of course, the enthusiasm to actually show it in your actions, in your words, in your interaction with others. So I would say that now, even though, a certain part of my nature hasn't changed, I'm still a quiet and inside person. But enthusiasm definitely has played a big part in many parts of my spiritual life, especially as you go on with this zest for whatever you want to do. But then somehow there is a little setback, or something happens and it doesn't exactly happen the way you wanted it to be, or the way you saw it, unfolding. And in those moments, I can feel this surge of enthusiasm. In other words, there's almost like a fresh burst of energy from inside. But wait a minute, it's a pure thought. It can happen, if not this way, then that way. If not this one, then that one, then there are other thoughts. And so that enthusiasm, I think, for me, has played a part significantly. Maybe not in the way that we usually think of enthusiasm, in terms of that loud and generative mode, but even though the nature has not changed of being internal, but the fact that there is fresh energy all the time. In other words, the energy never goes to sleep. If you want to do something and the benefits of it, then you just continue with that, and you can always find a reason to inject yourself with that fresh energy and enthusiasm. So I think that's how it has changed for me spiritually, in terms of
it with the zest being there and connection to God, it sounds like the fresh energy of enthusiasm, that wave of energy that carries you forward, whether it's 65 sessions in the values in healthcare, or how many years and how many obstacles. So it's almost as if the enthusiasm is somehow coming as a return, as the gift of the zip and the zeal and the zest. I'm wondering, because it is the way you described it and the way I have experienced it, is that it is coming through me. It's not me generating the enthusiasm often. Like you were saying, it's this fresh energy coming. And so I'm wondering what you have done or what you do. What part of that equation is in your hands? You know, are we just gifted with zip and zeal and zest and or what part of that equation is in our hands? Because I, like you, have the experience that the energy of enthusiasm comes. I didn't work at it. I would have worked at it before, but not now.
Yeah, it's interesting you're saying this, because before starting the program, I was thinking that did I really create, or, do I remember myself creating enthusiasm anytime? And no, I don't remember that. But it just came naturally. As a matter of fact, I was thinking that why is it that I'm doing this program in enthusiasm? Obviously, I have to learn to be enthusiastic. The way the world literally sees enthusiasm, I'm not that one. But obviously, there's something in the drama for me to generate that kind of, even more enthusiastic energy, perhaps. And that's what I was thinking. But what is it that attributed to me having this enthusiasm? I am thinking that it's just this practice of refreshing the energy of the soul, I think, ever so often. Because we so often get bogged down, in terms of the mundaneness and the physicality of our existence and our doings and our projects and our events and all of that. There's so much to life, to make it, full of happiness and, enjoyment, that sometimes there's too much to do that comes in the way of actually feeling that original pure energy that's there in the soul. So I think my practice, the first thing I would say is this practice of taking time to separate, myself from all the doings, all the scenes and all the stories, and even all people and personalities and all of that, and to just sit with myself as a soul, simple, pure, and just fresh for what it is. Not that it has to be even refreshed by something or someone, but as soon as I kind of separate all the other influences on the soul, I could feel that freshness within the soul, the purity of that thought, or the benevolence within what the idea that I was creating or something like that. So I can go back to it. I remember, for example, going through medical school. This was, of course, before I was introduced to spiritual life. And of course, you come to medical school with a very pure intent, very pure spirit of serving, wanting to give, wanting to heal and all of that. But somewhere down the road, in the details of all the study and the you know what I mean, right? In terms of being trained, but also even after being trained, as you enter the profession, there's so many do's and don'ts, and this way and that way, and not this. So all of that kind of, it's like, you could call it red tape if you want, but it kind of cuts back on that original pure spirit of serving and healing. So I was thinking, I could have used this kind of meditation, far before I was introduced to it, because a lot of times I remember I would come back in the morning. Of course, when you leave the home, you're much better in your energy level and wanting to do the best, and thinking of innovative ways of doing and connecting and all that. But by the time you have finished the day, you're not in a mood to think on those lines. You're just kind of bogged down with the mundaneness of the whole profession of healing even. So I was thinking that, but then when I started to meditate, actually, I remember, and when I started to take time, and of course I was very busy at that time, between 2 or 3 practices. And so when this came across, the meditation came across, I started doing it. And once I got something from it, I got so enthused. I wanted to do it morning. I wanted to be in the center in the evening. And people would ask me, how do you even get the time and the energy to do that at the end of the day like that? And I remember distinctly saying that, no, this is refreshing me. This is energizing me. And it's actually what is making me able to do what I need to do the next morning even. So I remember that the energizing part of the meditation practice that came very, very early on. And I realized that, this is what we need. This is what I need as a soul to continue with my profession. And so it was not rocket science, to just watch it happen right in front of your eyes, how your energy level changes.
I was thinking that, often we hear the word zeal and enthusiasm is the breath of your life. And as I hear you speak, you can see that the soul is just oxygenating with that energy, right? And when I think about life before the spiritual practice and life after, it is a complete breath of fresh air, how my life is now, inside, externally as well, but inside definitely. And I'm wondering if our part of the equation is to do what you just described so beautifully, to refresh the soul. So not refresh with a cool drink the body, or refresh, we can do all those things too, but refresh the soul. And you described it by stepping away, not being in the stories, the to-do lists, the activity. But in order to have both zeal and enthusiasm, I have to refresh my aim, my zest, my zip. Why am I really doing what I'm doing in life? Come back to the core, the pure intention, the essence that is very generative. That is, it's an energy that is very pure and giving. So if I refresh myself like that, then I get, and that be the zeal part, then I get fresh energy flowing through me, which is the enthusiasm. And it creates that kind of lift over the obstacles and difficulties that we all face, because the picture you're painting is beautiful, starting the day fresh and then ending the day like full of red tape, and then somehow restoring that. Imagine, it's almost like magic that you can go from that to that, with a small practice called meditation. Remarkable, really, isn't it?
Beautiful.
And yet in the combination of the two wings, that is the part I play. I have to keep coming back to my zest, my zip, that quality of energy in myself in order to experience the enthusiasm to keep going, that energy that refreshes and carries me forward.
Yeah. And sometimes this red tape or whatever the obstacle or the hindrance is not even from outside. It's from inside.
Yeah.
My own way of thinking or interpreting something or remembering something of the past, and then creating that same kind of energy again, so I have to be very watchful, not only for what's stopping me from outside, but also what is stopping me from inside to holding on to the spirit, the original pure spirit of my being and serving. That was a lesson I had to learn too, that yes, to a certain extent I can say, I can separate from all of that. but I need to even separate myself from my own negative influences or past influences that are not healthy. So I think that's another thing to pay attention to in terms of feeding into that zeal and generating enthusiasm.
Yeah, those negative thoughts, those getting trapped in negative feelings, replaying stories of, negative. In a way, it takes the wind out of our sails, doesn't it? And zeal and enthusiasm is giving wind to our sails. One of the things that I hear often in our, the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris is that you have to maintain your stage of zeal and enthusiasm, which puts the ball in my court. I'm the one that has to maintain a certain level of buoyancy. I need to keep the wind in my sails so that I can keep going over the obstacles. And it makes me feel, and I know from my own experience, it is not something I can take for granted, my level of zeal and enthusiasm. I feel like I was gifted with some natural enthusiasm, but it can get tainted with so many things that I have to be really intentional about keeping it elevated and clean, both, because you can get excited about something and have a lot of energy for it. I don't think that's actually spiritual enthusiasm. I think that's excitement, and that's different. I discovered early.
The word that comes to mind is sustainable. It's the age of sustainability. How are we able to sustain the enthusiasm? Okay, it was one task that I had a lot of enthusiasm for. And then, of course, I put in my full effort into it. And at the end of the day, I am wiped out. Tomorrow, don't tell me about anything, that kind of a thing. So I think what you're trying to say is, we get excited about things, but then it also fizzles out. We use the word soda water here, soda water. So there is that feeling of high, feeling high, but at the same time, it's not coming from a spiritual source. It's coming from some kind of a temporary or an emotional source, so to speak. Emotionally, I might have needed a project like that, or an experience like that, or an acknowledgement like that, and that's fine. But then spiritual is something that I am able to always sustain on a long-term basis, ongoing basis. So that's what comes to mind. And I was also thinking that there was a very beautiful image that we got in the morning class today, if you got it. And it was this thing of, how all the actions that we do are like branches of a tree, and we get excited about these branches. They have beautiful, attractive leaves and flowers and fruits maybe. And we go towards that branch and we do what we have to do. And we expect, of course, the fruits and the flowers to come immediately, but even so. But then there is another branch, there's another set of responsibility or a role that I have to play in another branch. And by the time I leave this branch and go to other branch, I've lost my wings because I'm still thinking back about the previous branch, the action that I'm doing. So sometimes that doesn't help either. So the ability to be able to relate to something, to do it well, to do it in a powerful way, and immediately then after that, even though it was successful, not successful, but to be able to let go and to move on to something that's waiting for me also, to be able to sustain that energy of wanting to do good, wanting to serve, wanting to be benevolent, or whatever that may be. So I was just thinking of that image in terms of the enthusiasm, that the birds don't just go and sit on a branch and take pleasure from that. So they've gotten a little bit of fruits or whatever, and then they're on to the next one and on to the next one, and they fly very easy from one to the other.
Mhm.
So same way too as a soul, especially given this time and age and the world we are living in, there's so much that we not only are asked to do or demanding of us, but we can do. We can do so much good for the people around us. But if we then become heavy after doing one little thing, then it doesn't allow us to fly, so as to speak. So I was thinking of that particular image of being able to let go of things as well in order to sustain that enthusiasm.
I like the idea that enthusiasm is the sustainable energy we have as souls at this time, when we understand that dynamic you're describing, the refresh to get that fresh energy. And I know for myself, I would get excited about something. So if you take the word about out of the equation, excitement is always about something, right? And I noticed that what's changed for me is that instead of getting excited about the task, the project, the whatever, I'm detaching from, how do I say it? I'm unplugging my lifeline from the task or the event or the activity, or that I'm looking forward to this or that. And the practice of detaching it, like removing my lifeline from that activity as if it was giving me the energy. And when we do that, and we start taking the energy from the zeal that I feel for living, for my purpose in life, for what my inner passion is, if it's benevolence, if it's being close to God, if it's transforming to become my very best self, whatever that is, whatever gives me that zip or that zest, that's what actually will feed my enthusiasm. Not the task or the activity or the fun event that's coming up. And so for me, that was the huge shift inside this spiritual life, is that I could easily get excited about things, and I could plan lots of things to get excited about. It makes a person quite busy, actually, but and what's not sustainable about that way of living is that at a certain point you get exhausted planning so many wonderful events to keep yourself excited.
Exactly.
Very different. It's like a treadmill, and the enthusiasm that I experience now is not connected to an event. It's all internal. It's all coming from whatever my natural zest. And if a situation occurs that is difficult, I always come back inside to what am I about? What is my real purpose in living? What is the thing that lights? And when I come back to that, it's like the situation is just providing another opportunity for me to express that or experience that maybe differently than I thought it should be.
Right. But the thing is that I still need to keep a check on myself, because that excitement can still overtake, sometimes.
I know.
It's tempting, when you think that you can put a program together and you'll get so many people, and, that will be the success of the whole, year or whatever. It's very tempting to think in that way.
Yeah.
But then to go to the root of, okay, what is that coming from? To really stay with the seed and the root of that thought. And that would usually, you will find that it's a thought of benevolence, it's a thought of purity, it's a thought of something very, very, selfless, something like that. So I think, I still have to check it out. It's again that it's not just excitement that I'm getting caught into. And the other way also I would tell is, if I am excited about something, I am excited about something, then I'm not going to get a lot of cooperation
Yeah.
to make that, to make that happen as well. So there's going to be a little bit of a push and a pull. The energy that I create around me is not going to be that pure either. So
That's
I have been very watchful of that,
Yeah.
that it should always come with inspiration for others. It should come with encouragement of others' qualities and talents, and not just about this one channel being of, this is the beginning and that's the end, and that's the way I want to see it, kind of thing. So it's very inclusive, enthusiasm. The energy of enthusiasm is also
Yeah.
very inclusive. It counts, it takes into account everything and everyone, I think.
Yeah. That's lovely. That's a very nice distinction, because I can see that when I get excited, there's less cooperation. However, when there's the refreshing energy of enthusiasm, everyone feels it. Everyone shares in it, and it creates cooperation. It's a lovely observation, Caliban. Thank you for that. I was thinking about, we get excited about doing wonderful things for others, even with the pure intention. But in these days, depression is almost an epidemic in the Americas. And here we are sustained. I don't know what my question is. It's maybe more an observation. Here I am focused in my life on maintaining a level of enthusiasm and zeal. And some of it comes naturally. I get into a virtuous cycle, and I'm, the energy is being generated and it's holding me aloft. That's wonderful. And then I look around at how many people around me are depressed, how many people in my community and my friends are depressed. And it doesn't appeal to them. Even the refreshing themselves through the meditation to then have this enthusiasm energy in their lives, it doesn't interest them, because they are not experiencing that. It just seems too impossible for them. And I've looked at, how does that affect my enthusiasm? How does that affect my zeal? And it hasn't. But it leaves me puzzled and a little bit always, checking the pulse. What could help others experience the benefit of this natural internal zeal generating the energy of enthusiasm? Do you have any thoughts about that? I mean, sometimes it feels like it's a wonderful test for my own zeal and enthusiasm, that it must be internally generated, or if I was relying on any external validation, I wouldn't be getting it, so it's good, and that it brings me back to myself. But what thoughts do you have about all those around us who are not experiencing this in this time of depression for so many?
I think this is such a crucial aspect of what we are doing with ourselves, actually. We think that we are doing great, and we're kind of going up the ladder, and in going up the ladder, we perhaps are feeling more and more distance from the people on the ground, perhaps. And so how do you bridge that gap? I think,
Yeah, thank you.
And
That's the
so
question.
for me, I think it's all about, we used to use the word balance before, but not anymore, but it's this whole thing of integration, integration with real life. So the more I feel I am able to integrate my spiritual growth, spiritual development, spiritual excellency, or whatever, with the on the ground situations, everyday situations, for example, I think it kind of makes us real, and I think what people are looking for is really this real connection, one-to-one connection, real connection. And if somehow we could integrate it for our own life, we could also project that energy for others. I think, you know, this spiritual and the non-physical, the spiritual and the non-spiritual are mundane thing. So the more we are able to integrate it into our life, and that's why also I'm thinking, for example, that, you know, the whole of the BK life is not about leaving any of your responsibilities, leaving your family or this or that or whatever, but you are within the family, taking care of the everyday situations that come, and you're trying to apply those principles in real life. So I think what I have found is that when you're interacting with people who are deeply down, you know, depressed, as you call them, but simple little tips how to come out of that depression or that little hole that they are in, and sharing your experience, I think, of how you did it or how you do it when you're in a situation like that. I think really, really helps. It's not that we're giving them the spiritual principle behind it or the practice behind it, but our experience of having done it ourselves. And maybe that appeals to some people, that they'll say, okay, you know, that sounds easy enough. I can try that, that kind of a thing. But most importantly, of course, it's this energy that we are able to project, you know, of positivity, of encouragement, of inspiration through our own living, you know, which is for us, it's this, I call it as a life of integration, that we don't negate anything, that we don't ignore anything, we don't discount anything, but everything is part of the equation. You know, we are doing great, but if we have people, you know, around us that are not doing well and that have real problems, then we treat that as a reality and we say, you know, let's raise our energy level to such an extent that they can see that, you know, this is what helps. That they get a little bit of encouragement. Maybe they won't even start doing anything, but they'll at least get some help from us, you know, in terms of our energy that we're building through our practice. So I don't know if I'm making so these are two things that I'm thinking of. Because of a life of integration, you could either share your experience and example, or you could just, you know, manifest and spread that energy in a natural way. You know, if it is just, say, for example, if they're just looking for somebody to listen to them, we can be there for them, but with the right energy, you know, that even our listening can empower them. But do we always have that time? Do we always have that kind of state of mind? Do we have that positivity, you know, in our approach? So it depends on all that, I think. And then, of course, they'll feel it, you know.
I'm thank you. That's wonderful. There's so many pictures come to my mind as you speak. And I was thinking full circle back to the zealot. You know, at the beginning, when I said it's not a comfortable word in English, I can imagine myself in my spiritual journey, the beginning, say, and now, and the difference in that picture looks very much like what you just described. How in the early days, I might have said something, been a bit like a zealot, you know, to share something that I knew and that could be helpful. And, you know, that wasn't really helpful. I think it maybe made people feel a little like they were worse than me. So the integration I can see in myself all these years later. The other day, someone was here and they were really, really down and they were sharing something really hard. And I could see, and as I sat and listened to them, the only thing I had in my head was this virtue. I could just see the beauty of the person. I could see their love for their situation, their family, all of the things that were causing the difficulty, but I could just feel that. And I just somehow that was in my head the whole time, and I could see the wisdom. It was like this sort of flash of different virtues going through my mind as I was listening to this person, and I could see. And at the end, they said, gosh, I just feel so much better now. I really do love my family, and it was like they said back to me the words that I had seen in my head as their own qualities. Very different way to use the energy of enthusiasm and zeal, right? It wasn't about telling them anything. It was just about, and I wasn't even attempting to hold my enthusiasm. It was just the fresh energy of their virtues was kind of flowing through my mind. And I suppose that would be like an energy that gave them enthusiasm without me saying anything.
So this is what natural relationships are meant to be, right?
Yeah.
Soul to soul.
Yeah,
And
lovely.
the soul is listening to soul, and soul, of course, they can't listen to as a soul, but we can't listen. We can listen, and we can share as a soul, even if it is not through words. We can share.
Yeah. So do you think you learned anything through this converson? I leared a lot.
Absolutely, yes.
You said you had something to learn.
I think I am going to go back with a ton more enthusiasm and zeal, actually both. So really, yes, it's been very enlightening, especially the way you have kind of positioned zeal, enthusiasm, and it's kind of come out in the conversation. I think how we need to make it sustainable, real, and perhaps directed to something that is long lasting rather than just a sporadic, spikes of enthusiasm for doing things or seeing things happen in a particular way. So it's been very nice.
Yeah, thank you. And I was surprised at the beginning when you said you thought you had something to learn, because I thought you had something to share. So I have always appreciated the quiet enthusiasm. It's like an engine that just keeps going in you. And for me, that was a better definition of enthusiasm than excitement. So that is like a benchmark. For me, when I think about enthusiasm, it's the sustainability of it, which I see too. So.
Yeah, I was also thinking of a balancing quality for enthusiasm. What would that be if we were to think of a balancing quality for enthusiasm? And I was thinking of this word maturity, depth or maturity, or however you want to call it. So if you put the two together, I think you have a perfect blend.
I was thinking introversion.
Introversion.
And enthusiasm. That keeps it clean, doesn't it? Yeah, that's lovely.
Seeing the times.
Okay, Sister Judy, you have any other questions, or should I start my?
Yes, I do seem to come with lots of questions, don't I? No, I think. No, I think they just came out naturally, actually, from what Caliban brought. Yeah, no, let's have, if there are any in the chat box, that would be great.
There are quite a few.
Oh, good.
So thank you so much for highlighting this very beautiful aspect. So can we sum it up and say that you'll have got out the differences between excitement and enthusiasm? And I've got a few comments on that from the participants, that they have really understood the differences between the two. So can we say that excitement is more of the doing thing and enthusiasm is more of the being thing? Internal, external again. Excitement is something more from the outside.
I think it's more than that, or it's not exactly clearly that. I think the excitement, I think it's more a matter of time bound, it comes and goes kind of thing.
Mm.
So excitement can come and go, but enthusiasm kind of stays. It's sustainable, and
Mhm.
I think it's more predictable, whereas excitement is not predictable. And even the result of excitement sometimes may not be predictable.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I would add to that. I think that excitement is actually a reaction to an external stimulus and therefore not internally generated, whereas enthusiasm and zeal are internal experiences. Yeah.
Yes, wonderful. So let me add one more question to this. The next episode is on eagerness. So
What?
eagerness, eagerness, eager,
Sorry?
eager,
Yes.
eagerness,
Eagerness.
Okay.
eagerness. So how does eagerness fit into an? Obviously, when I gave it to one of the previous speakers, he told me that, is eagerness actually a value or it's an anti-value? It's more of something disturbing energy. But then it is thought to be in the Western world that if you're eager, you are sort of eager to learn, you are eager to explore, so something like that. So how does this fit into zeal and enthusiasm?
Eagerness, I think, could be part of enthusiasm, but not always. It
Mm.
could also sometimes be superficial. In other words,
Mm.
it may not come from that depth of what the soul has to offer, right?
Mhm.
So you're eager, maybe it is because of curiosity, maybe it's because of some other self-centered motive, or it could be mixed with other things, I feel. Whereas with enthusiasm, I think it's a little bit more pure, maybe.
I hope you have a Canadian.
Everything can get mixed up in today's world.
Yeah, everything can. I hope you have a Canadian because, they say here we're an eager beaver. Be an eager beaver.
You
Um,
can be.
I think it is it can be ambitious, if it's corrupted, but as a pure virtue, I would agree with Caliban. I have a feeling it's a little bit more like ever ready. Eager. I'm like, but with some enthusiasm in it. Ever readiness with enthusiasm equals eager.
Right. So thank you. So a next question is, one of the participants is quite eager to learn meditation. He's saying that because he said that at the BKs, whenever you all have any talk on any value, you all always say that meditation is the best way to inculcate any value. So he's saying that I really am struggling with trying to learn meditation, because now let me come to practical life. He says that when I'm in a company, he's working in a company, and he's saying that maybe this could apply even to a law kick center. I mean, at a center where the Raj Yogi students are staying together, or any spiritual seekers staying together. Like, I have a lot of zeal and enthusiasm, but my fellow beings and my colleagues at work, they don't seem to cooperate with me. They don't have the same level of zeal, enthusiasm. So can I do something, particularly at workplace, to help them be like me?
Mm. Be like me in what way?
In the sense, have the same enthusiasm as I have.
So that's what I said. The enthusiasm is a nice word and a nice virtue, but it's towards a particular end, right? Enthusiasm for what? What's it producing? What is it creating around me? Is it creating curiosity? Is it creating, some kind of an inspiration? Is it creating some kind of a motivation for something? It's always nice to see what is my enthusiasm doing for others. So in that way, if I really had that much enthusiasm to meditate, for example, then let me do it in a way that it's actually creating an impact, right?
Yeah.
so that they're not just looking at me, at my enthusiasm for meditation, but they are looking at the result of that meditation. What is this person getting out of it? What is he reflecting after he started to meditate? What changes am I seeing in this person? And so let that be more visible also, along with the enthusiasm. Not to let go of the enthusiasm, let him hold on to that enthusiasm, but also, not just enthusiasm for the sake of enthusiasm, but continue to develop your practice or meditation or knowledge base or whatever in such a way that is actually bringing benefit, first to myself, but also to others. Am I more peaceful? Am I calmer? Am I less stressed out? Is it helping me? So I think I would pay a little more attention to what am I enthusiastic about, rather than just the enthusiasm.
There's also the feeling that, sometimes when people start meditating, they want their whole family to come with them, and they want all their friends to come with them, and they want their colleagues to come with them. And in a way, there's this subtle dependency on company for the journey. And, one of the early things we kind of learn is that I have to do this myself consistently. And then, like Caliban's saying, it's felt. The benefit is brought, rather than me trying to enlist everybody in the meditation course. Doesn't always work out so well, but it's more because I'm a bit dependent on having their company for me to continue when I don't have to be.
Great. So speaking in the terms which both of you all started with, being a breath of fresh air, zeal and enthusiasm is a breath of fresh air for life. So can you just tell, or you said about oxygenation as well. I remember Sister Judy mentioned, because it's a medical word, oxygenation for the life. So can you tell us what are the choke points, or what? So what choke my zeal and enthusiasm in life? And I need to know those choke points or those reasons so that I can avoid doing that to maintain or sustain my enthusiasm.
You want to go, Judy?
Oh, that's great. I love it. Well, that's a great image, isn't it? Choke points, like what constricts your breath. Well, I think Kala shared one. You did, Kala, early, the I, if it's about I. And I think also the feeding of negative or ruminating thoughts definitely is a choke point that cuts off that breath of fresh energy, of enthusiasm, right? Very often, I think our understanding in the BK world is that this enthusiasm is very natural and innate to the soul. The only thing prohibiting it is the things that I have laid over it. So the choke points are of my making. And one of them is layering up these negative thoughts and feelings, allowing myself to indulge in that kind of rumination. Definitely, more than choke points, kills my enthusiasm very quickly. And then it's such a slog to get it back up again, It's like taking a helium balloon and trying to blow it up with your like that. It's just so hard, So I would say those were two that I heard from Kala that I think are key: the negative thinking, feeling, and also this ego, this I. It's a real enthusiasm. It's an excitement generator, but it's an enthusiasm killer. Kala, how about you?
Well, I think, what do I call it? When I'm in that doing mode and forget the being mode, I think that becomes my big block of energy. So taking time off in between, the doing parts of the day, and really quiet down and feel that soul energy, pure energy, spirit of being, spirit of giving, spirit of serving, sharing, all of that. And sometimes we can even make it natural part of our day. Like, for example, I can remember now that if there is a lot to do, here in Peace Village, for example, it happens all the time. And you just walk up to the person and say, this, and this is what you need to do without acknowledging the being part, right? And it's not just about acknowledging the other person, but it's about acknowledging myself as a being, as pure energy too, so that I can say whatever I have to say with that softness or, loving understanding or whatever. So I think we overdo, in simple words, I would say it's not keeping the balance of the doing, the being, the integration of the doing and the being. When we don't do that, then it gets to be too much and we lose the enthusiasm part, I think. Choke point, if you may. I'm choking myself, doing, or asking people to do. So that doing mode is very destructive when it's not combined with being.
Right, wonderful. So I know I'll touch upon a few because there are many questions related to that. People want to know tips for how to develop zeal and enthusiasm. But before I go there, I want to connect two things here with that same question because quite a few questions are related to these tips. So in the BK, I must not say BK again, the spiritual teachings we are taught here that to develop zeal and enthusiasm, we need to let go of our two things, carelessness and laziness, right? So people say, oh no, be overzealous or rather zealous and enthusiastic. Carelessness, laziness will go off. But people struggle a lot, even Brahmins or even the spiritual seekers who have been meditating for say 20, 30 years, still feel that they have this bit of carelessness in them. They are sometimes lazy with whatever they are supposed to do. So related to this question, are there any tips how to develop the zeal and enthusiasm in life, both spiritual life and the personal professional life at work and even your personal life? Any tips?
I think before you can develop that kind of positive energy, which is a very high level, right? We're talking about zeal, which is a very high level of positive energy. We're talking about a very high level of, enthusiasm is similar also. So before we can get there, I think we need to at least make certain attempts to regularize our life, our routine, our practices. I don't want to call it discipline as discipline, but some kind of a regular pattern of doing and thinking and taking time off and not doing things, at least some things that will allow us to at least come to the normal level of being, like this day-to-day living kind of, we're okay with that. So I'm thinking of carelessness can play and laziness can play a big part in that. What the hell, I will not meditate today, for example, or I'll not take traffic control, like break time. I'm not going to sit and think about good thoughts today. I'm just going to have my coffee and that's that. So it could be carelessness in that. But I think even if it is 2 minutes, 3 minutes, if we can incorporate into that 2 or 3 minutes of break or bathroom break or tea break, coffee break, some good thoughts into that. So we make it into a discipline. So we make it into a routine. I think you really will feel very good about yourself. So I think at first it's very important to feel good about yourself or about what you're doing. And so this will bring you to that level. And then over a period of time, of course, you can build the energy of zeal, enthusiasm, everything. But right now we're talking about, energy level that has gone down very low. How do we bring that up? Right. So I think some kind of regularity is important.
Mhm.
Discipline is important.
I have three little tricks that came to mind as you were speaking, Kala. I love that. Every time you speak, there's inspiration comes into my head. So see, this enthusiasm in you is coming across. One of them was every time I hear don't do something, like I know I'm not supposed to do something, I always translate it into a do this instead. I mean, I make the mental effort to take a don't or shouldn't, and I always turn it into the positive, because otherwise I have this little street rebel in me that will resist doing something that I'm told, resist cooperating. That, it's working with that energy of resistance to doing something. So if I'm told not to, I'll always, okay, what do I do instead if I'm not supposed to do that? The other thing I always take when I hear the word should, and I say the word should to myself a lot. I don't know if any of you do, but I should do this, I should do that, and I think laziness and carelessness generate the should word a lot. So the more laziness and carelessness somebody's experiencing, the more likely they are to be telling themselves they should. And so I just find it's a choke point for enthusiasm is should. Because I don't respond well to shoulds. I feel guilty, or I feel ashamed or blamed, or I feel bad from the minute I hear the word. So instead, I anytime I'm telling myself, I catch myself, I say to myself, but what do you want to do? And so then it becomes I choose. I'm choosing to do this because it fits with my zeal, zest, the thing that matters most to me, that gives me the energy, right? That's one. And the other one with carelessness, we have what I call ICBs. They're I can't because. ICB, I can't because. We have whole lists of ICBs. I can't because, I can't because, I can't because, I can't because. And I turn them into a capital ICB. I can by ... And it sort of breaks down the perfectionist thing about I can't because, I can't do it because I'm not going to do it good enough, long enough, every day enough, but I can by, and starting this little bit or doing this little thing, or just I can by just taking 5 minutes instead of an hour. So in other words, giving oneself the energy of enthusiasm to start, even if it's just small. So those are three that just came into my mind as Kala was speaking. And I realized I think they're little practices I've adopted over the years without writing them down or anything. I think I've just naturally done this over the years. And part of it is just to keep the energy inside of me fresh, because should is stale and must is stale and don't do this is stale. All of that just feels like it's baggage. It's importing old energy into the soul, and I don't want that old energy. I want the energy of choice, of freshness, yeah.
Right, wonderful. So I would just like to end here the questions, but the last question which I want both of you to share in a very brief way, it reminds me of Dadi Janki, the image of zeal and enthusiasm, because she was the one who served the foreign lands out of India. And she traveled a lot, particularly I think in 2018 or 19, there was a record which she had broken her record. She traveled really a lot. And they said that she didn't understand the concept of jet lag. The moment she reached US, she'll be in that time zone, go for the Amrit Vela, do her meditation, which Sister Kala beautifully pointed that stick to your routine. She never broke her routine in that aspect of having jet lag or time zone differences. So do you want to quickly share some stories, just one from Dadi Janki's, because you'll have taken a lot of sustenance from her. So both of you, one story, which relates to zeal and enthusiasm. Maybe we can start with Sister Judy, yeah.
Sure. One time Daddy said to me, don't look back. And I almost wanted to argue with her because I thought I'm such a forward-looking. I'm always looking forward. I never reflect. Well, I reflect, but I'm not nostalgic. So I didn't quite get it. And it took me about a year of really thinking hard about that to realize oh, I do look back, but in ways that held me back. And when I saw her again and I shared that with her, I mean, she said yes. I mean, yes, she knew that, of course. That's why she told me. But to me, it was a secret to Daddy's enthusiasm, is that she never looked back. Like even in time zones, you'd be looking back to the place you were just in and marking the time there rather than I'm here. This is the time. So that's, yeah, that was very helpful for me.
Shanti. Yeah, many scenes come to mind. And one such scene was, I think some of you may be familiar, those on the program would be familiar with this tradition of the BKs sharing Toli, right? Toli is a piece of sweet with a blessing that's usually shared at the end of the program, after every program. And the importance of that is, of course, not the sweet itself or the Toli itself, but the opportunity to meet each other soul to soul, the person who's sharing and the person who is receiving. So one such time, it so happened I had just reached Madhuban, our headquarters, and Dadi Janki in those days, after her classes, she used to give Toli, and it didn't matter how many people there were in the room. It was tens, it was hundreds, then it was thousands. But she made it a point to give Toli because she wanted a chance to meet everyone individually and have that feeling of soul to soul connection. And this particular time when I landed in Mount Abu in the headquarters, and class had finished, and I just got the fag end of the class, and of course the line started forming for the Toli, and it was a huge line, a humongous line. And I said, it's too much. I'll take Toli from Adi later on. I just went to my room, and I later on went to her, and what she said to me was, "You didn't come to in class to take Toli from me." And I said, "I wanted to take later on with you, Dadi," and she said, "No. Every time, every opportunity is a different one. You could have always come to me here, of course, to meet me, but the opportunity to meet there in class was different from this one. So of course it was my carelessness, it was my laziness, right? That I didn't want to stay in the line or, go or whatever. But she made it a point to realize that everything that we do has meaning behind it, has energy behind it, has a result behind it. And so for me, that was her teaching me by, of course, her example. Here was this 100+ years old lady sitting and sharing Toli with thousands of people. And I'm making an excuse that it's too long a line. So she put me to shame, of course. But I learned a lesson about the enthusiasm for whatever has been set, in motion, to honor that and not to bypass that. So I think that was one of the many incidents. I remember.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being so honest with your sharings and accepting that, yes, we still can be careless and lazy in different ways. Okay, so I would now request Dr. Ashok Mehta to please proceed with the vote of thanks. Over to you.
Thank you, Judy Ben and Kala Ben. I think both of them have a different personality. And Judy Ben is her voice is loud, clear, resonant. And here's Kala Ben, the same energy, but very soft and gentle. It looks as if there's a difference. The Eastern way of showing the zest, showing the zeal and enthusiasm, and the Western way of expressing the same zeal and enthusiasm. But as a doctor, I feel that anything that is infectious is a zeal and enthusiasm. Something that you have and you pass it on to somebody else, he may be totally different, but he would go with the impression that you have given or the energy that you have given. I think that word, beautiful word, energy, was very nice. God's energy bringing zeal and enthusiasm to all of us. There are various ways. Say, for example, even at my age, which I think I'm almost 85, but even today, I go for my surgery to see my patients with the same zeal and enthusiasm. I think it is inborn. And somewhere down the line, it has come to you in scarf. That's what we say about personality traits that we have. And it's very interesting that people curb you down sometimes. For example, if I go for my movie class in the morning, my wife would not allow me to go drive. I said, look, I can't have a driver at 6:30 in the morning. I have to have you, I have to go a long distance. So, it's just your enthusiasm and zest sometimes is also disturbing very close people.
It disturbs others. Being so enthusiastic.
Yeah. And sometimes they feel that you're childish. That might be sort of, you're being with the younger spirits, and more enthusiasm would be taken as more as, not appropriate for your grown-up age. I think we've enjoyed anyway. I think the dialogues are very interesting. Here you're brought out in two contrasts of two different persons with different personalities talking about the same zeal and enthusiasm. I have known Kalaben. She's one of the quietest person I've ever seen. I used to go to New York, and sometimes she used to drive me down to the airport, pick me up, take me to the resort, a retreat center. And this is so quiet and so absolutely like that you can't see any excitement in her. This is her personality. And Judy Ben is totally different. I think, thank you very much for sharing and, opening so many things. I like Judy Ben's own word, to maintain buoyancy and to taking wind out of my sails. I think that's a beautiful way in which you express yourself. Thank you very much for all that you have shared with us. Thanks a lot. Om Shanti.
Thank you, Dr. Mehta. And Sister Claudia wants to say a quick word, and then we'll move on to announcements.
Yeah, I also like to thank both of you. It was very nice to see the connection between one and the other one, and also answer our questions inside as well. So we can see how we can maintain that zeal and enthusiasm working from inside out, and understanding also the other ones around us. So it was very, very deep, and I think we can think about that and listen again and make sure that we keep that zeal and enthusiasm in our life, no matter what. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have both of you with us today. Thank you.
It was indeed my pleasure as well to be in such rich company.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
So over to Sister Anu for the engagements, for the appointments. I'm so sorry. What am I saying?
Announcements. No worries. Enthusiasm flowing, Brother Manoj. I agree with Sister Claudia that such a pleasure to have you, and it was so deep inside for me. I'm really feeling the zeal and enthusiasm in my heart. It's not definitely external, because I think so much aspects you talked about, and as Sister Claudia said, we have to go back, revisit, get our tips out. And I love the refreshing part, Kalaben, that you disconnect, free yourself from stories, doings, other people, and bring the fresh energy. Love that. And also that being, we forget to recognize the beings when we get into doings. So many tips. I can go on, but I think let's move on. We would like to have experience of meditation with you too. So quickly, I will announce the upcoming sessions. So as we always do the workshop, the experiential workshop on zeal and enthusiasm is after 1 week. That's 20th of May, Saturday, 7 a.m. for West Coast and accordingly East Coast, and India time 7:30 p.m. And we'll have a very senior brother, our spiritual guide, so many places, so many insights he had brought on, and that is Brother Nizar Juma from Kenya. He will join us from there, and he will take us through an insightful talk and meditation. So don't miss it. Please mark your calendar and join. And we'll have experiential exercises before that to deepen and understand more deeply the zeal and enthusiasm. And we'll have the silence retreat that we do on particular value once a month, will be on zeal and enthusiasm. So in silence, to experience and deepen zeal and enthusiasm will be interesting. These silence retreats are based on our Brahma Kumaris spiritual teachings, and we'll welcome all to join and experience. And our next session will be on episode 66 on eagerness, utsukta in Hindi. And for that, we'll again have a conversation like today that brings so much richness to all of us. And for that, we'll have Sister Dr. Jenna from Washington, D.C. and Sister Priyana from Mumbai, India. So that will be after 2 weeks, Saturday, 27th May, same time. Please note. And you'll get all the invitations and information on our websites. That's vihasa.in and vancouver.brahmakumaris.ca. And all our videos, including today's session in all languages, will be on our YouTube channels. So thank you so much. And I think we'll not miss to take a photo that we always take to memorize, to make it forever stay with us. So everyone, please open your video so that we can take the photo with Sister Kala and Sister Judy. Okay, I got that. Thank you so much. So over to you, Manish brother.
Okay, so maybe we'll just say share some meditation music along with the commentary, or you just want to do some drishti, whatever you all suggest.
Drishti is good.
Okay, fine. So I'll just play some soft music in the background. So thank you once again so much for your wisdom and your time. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone.